Hello and welcome to the Birth Untethered podcast. I'm Shellie, a long-time doula, advocate and former university lecturer.
And I'm Kemi, a badass birth keeper, formerly a UK registered midwife.
Just a couple of rebels with decades of combined experience in pregnancy, birth and beyond getting together to share wisdom. We exist to equip birth workers, families and seekers of truth with informed choice, not fear. Come as you are, learn what they don't teach. This is the birth revolution and you're all invited.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Birth Untethered podcast. And today we have a very special, well, actually two very special guests. Two very special guests who I am very, very fond of. We've got Anna and her little baby Max. And she's going to talk to us about how she managed to achieve a physiological birth. Because I know we were saying in the last episode that probably around about 1% to 2% of the population in the UK now are managing a physiological birth. So we thought, what better to do than to bring on some mamas who have achieved it, who can talk us through what they did, what they didn't do, what they were offered, what they said no to, what they said yes to, what they how they prepared to get the birth that they wanted to achieve. So welcome, Anna. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, thank you for having me. Unfortunately, I think the little man might be making some noises, but hopefully he'll stay quite chilled.
You wake up starving. It's always the way. He's like, as soon as we press the record button, he's like, ah.
Yeah. He ate that not that long ago, but then I always think that.
Yeah, they just have. They're growing so fast, aren't they? Their brains growing so quickly that they just can't help but needs to snack at all times. Anna, did you have an idea of, were you planning before you became pregnant? Did you have an idea in your mind of how you wanted to birth, how you were going to achieve that? Or were you thinking, I've got no clue, I'm just going to find out as I go?
We were planning to get pregnant and it all happened fairly quickly and easily. And yes, I was fairly adamant for a long time, kind of just being a believer that nature knows best, and the more natural things are, probably they were designed that way for a reason. So yeah, I felt pretty strongly that I wanted it to be as intervention free as possible. And then the more reading I did and kind of researching while I was pregnant, the benefits of a physiological birth are many, and I kind of assumed, like probably lots of people do before they get pregnant, that it's, if you're healthy and everything's kind of going fine, then it's probably going to be achievable to just have your baby without loads of interventions. But I was a little bit kind of nervous, just because of the stories of other people I know having babies around this time. You like you said, there just aren't very many people who manage to have a baby without intervention these days. So yeah, I had a bit of kind of trepidation of there's lots of C-sections seem to be happening. What can I do to minimize the chances of that? But I definitely didn't go into it thinking that I thought I'd have a home birth, because I knew that the environment would be important for the whole process unfurling and all of the kind of hormones, and just I had a belief early on that the right setting would be important for everything to
go
happen.
Well. And do you think that you kind of felt that instinctively, or was that something that you read somewhere or heard somewhere? Was there a particular source of information that you found really useful for kind of steering you in the right direction?
I listened to quite a lot of birth stories. That was kind of a lot of my preparation, was just listening to other people's stories, and you get a little tidbit from every story, I think. I felt like I listened to a lot where there was a home birth that was a second birth, and it was a bit of a redemption following a bad experience with the first birth. So it's kind of my natural inclination to not want to be disturbed and not have too many people I don't know around and bright lights and all of that stuff. That was kind of me naturally. But then the more I read and listened to other people's stories of first births being not a very nice experience in a hospital, followed by then a much different second birth at home, kind of defied it for me. Why would you not just skip straight to that second option, and then you get to be at home and snuggle your baby and not have all of the drama of being in a hospital.
It's funny because it's a very common theme that people think, oh yeah, I want to have a home birth, but not for my first baby. And I'm always like, well, why do you want the trauma of having a hospital first baby when you could just go home at the first time? Why put yourself in a situation where the number of interventions is so much more massive? And I think the propaganda that we've spoken a little bit about on other podcasts, and we're kind of going to go into in more detail about the kind of history of midwifery, of obstetrics, of this transition to hospital birth becoming the norm, which actually really is in quite recent history, very recent history in terms of the longevity of how long we've been birthing. But it's been really effective, and people think that home birth is more dangerous, and of course the media doesn't help with that by sort of publicizing and shouting about if there is if there are any bad outcomes related to a home birth. They don't shout about all of the bad outcomes that are happening in a hospital on a daily basis, and all of the iatrogenic harm and stuff like that, half as loud as they're kind of witch hunting the home birth, aren't they? And the data shows that home birth is significantly safer for mothers, and they say as safe for babies,
but they're not,
because they're alive.
Yeah, because they're alive, and but that more of them go to neonatal intensive care, but they're alive, and more of them will, well, almost all of them won't have had their full blood complement, which most babies born at home with switched on parents, their babies will have their full blood complement. We've spoken about that in other episodes as well. So if you actually look at the real, the information that we really want about how to enable the healthiest birth for our babies, actually, again, the baby is safer being born at home. And also, when you mention, I love the clarity of thoughts that you gave to, well, why didn't I just miss out the traumatic bit in hospital? Like, to me, it's very, very clear and obvious. In addition, it's not just the mother suffering the trauma, it's the baby with the forceps on their head, or the ventouse on their scalp, or the baby that's had a laceration from an unnecessary cesarean that cascaded from an unnecessary intervention. So it's not just, I need to seem to reassure, to remind mothers that when you're making your decisions, you say you love your baby, but you're making decisions that also cause your baby harm.
I guess a lot of people have the starting assumption that the medical system is there to keep them and their baby safe, and that's probably why so many people don't feel like good to give birth at home, because they think it's not the safer option.
We can't keep making that assumption if we're loving parents, because babies and their mothers die in hospital. So we really got to grow up with that sense of thinking. Like, you actually had adult thoughts and made adult decisions, and I need more of us to do that.
I think what you're kind of alluding to there, Anna, is that we kind of all have this assumption that outside authority has our best interests at heart. It's what's been drilled into us in our education from a tiny age. We think that they know better than us, that they know more than us. And actually, Kemi, you shared a reel from a doctor the other day that was basically like, there's not much information online from doctors. It's all coming from other people, like from midwives. And the attitude in it was very much that midwives are lesser than me because I'm a doctor and my knowledge is more superior and I know more. And it's like, well, not about physiological birth, you don't, because you don't see it. And this is the thing about, we support physiological birth all the time. The vast majority of births that I've supported in my career have been physiological, and most midwives don't see that anymore. Hospital-based midwives, obstetricians never see it. They will never have seen a baby spontaneously coming out of vagina without intervention, without interruption, without fingers up there, without monitoring, they haven't seen it. They don't know what it's like. They don't know what they're fighting for. They don't understand it. And I think people assume that they do. They think that they do. Because they've been told that it's safer. But actually, it's never been safer to birth in hospital with an obstetrician, compared to continuity of led care with a wise woman at home. It's never been safer in the entire history of birth. So I'm so glad that you knew that, you realized it, and you were like watching these stories and going, yeah, I am right, my feeling is right, I'm gonna keep going down this path. And so when you were first pregnant, did you were you thinking to yourself, okay, what do I have to do now? Do I call a midwife? Do I self-refer? Were you sort of like on that kind of pathway going forward? Is that how you started?
I just registered with. I didn't even do very much research into the hospitals. I just assumed that I would have midwives present at the birth. Probably most people do. And yeah, registered with a UCLH, and then at some point I had to transfer to the Whittington because you have to be with the hospital nearest you if you want home birth. And I guess I wasn't a very stressed pregnant person. I was quite sort of like, what's the point in worrying about it? Let's just go with the flow and hope everything's fine. And the first kind of point of stress that happened for me was I think the first scan where my blood pressure was a bit high. So they immediately said, right, let's put you on aspirin for the rest of your pregnancy. And that felt like I kind of knew my blood pressure was high because I was in the hospital and I was having a stressful day at work, and I just didn't think it was high generally. So instead of doing that, I bought a blood pressure monitor and just checked it a bit at home, and it was always normal.
So as a grown adult, you were capable of monitoring your own health and seeing, oh, look, my blood pressure is okay. And when I'm under stress, it raises it a bit. So maybe I just need to make sure that my life is calmer, that I'm removing certain stresses, the hospital and their nonsense, from my daily living, so that I can just be well and healthy for my baby. Oh, yeah, fantastic.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
That.
Can I also add, for anyone who's really interested in this, 60% of pregnant women have something called white coat syndrome, which means that their blood pressure will usually be higher if it's being measured by a midwife or obstetrician or one of their lackeys. So rather than chucking aspirin down your neck, they should have recommended first that you take your blood pressure at home and see if you have any spikes. Also, I heard the other day that aspirin is made from willow bark, which means that you can access a herbal support for, if for aspirin related, where aspirin's recommended, try willow bark first is probably the better way to say it. So I feel I need to throw that in because, again, you may be unaware of what I've just said, but your innate response is to say, you know what, let me try it at home. I love that. So I can sit there and be nerdy around this subject, but actually you have an inner voice that said, just go home and take it there.
Yeah, and did you feel that they listened to you on that?
Fluctuates all the time, doesn't it? So it just seems crazy to do anything based off one measurement.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So I kind of lied to them and said, yeah, I'm taking aspirin. Just keep it quiet. But then didn't do it, and my blood pressure was fine.
I think okay, how am I going to say this in a polite way? It's probably not going to happen. I'm just going to go fully untethered. Yeah. I have concerns about the education that is happening for midwives. I have concerns about the distinct lack of common sense in the NHS, and that, like you say, you go in, you have a high reading. Why are they not then going, okay, well, let's chat about other things just so you can feel a bit more relaxed in the environment. We've got a bit of time to talk through things. Occasionally blood pressures get high. You've come in a rush, it's been bad traffic, it's a bit nervous, you've got funny smells of the hospital, that kind of thing. So let's just take it again in a little bit and not worry about it, when we've got you settled down and maybe we've listened to the heartbeat of the baby and you're feeling all connected with them and it's lovely, and we'll just recheck it and see how it is.
There's no conversation. It's just straight to medical solutions.
Not let's put you on a medication that might mean that we then limit your choices further down the line that may have consequences that we don't yet fully understand or know about. just like let's take a step back and think, okay, what's the common sense thing here? And I think you probably had that a little bit more as your pregnancy went on.
Yeah, there were more bigger stresses popping up. So I think around the time I heard you, Shellie, which was just in time. Probably should have been a bit earlier on the ball there. They did the fundal height measurement. I think they do that at I can't remember what point in pregnancy that starts. But I'd listened to some stuff about that and kind of knew that was also just not a reliable measurement, and it was done by 3 different midwives for me over I don't know, a period of about a month. And the first midwife who offered it to me, I said, I don't think I want that because I don't think it provides reliable information. And she was very nice, and she sort of twisted my arm into it and said, "Oh, it's no big deal. It'll take a second. Just do it," kind of thing. So I did.
Silent assassin. I have said no.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And then they're going, oh, it doesn't really mean anything. Let me just do that and coerce you into it. Kemi, would you just explain for everyone what fundal height measurement is, just for people who don't know, please?
So that's a measurement taken from the fundus of the uterus, which will usually have a bottom against it if the baby's lying longitudinal. And so you place one end of the tape measure where you can feel that firmness on the uterus and at the top of the uterus, and then you pull the tape measure down and measure where the symphysis pubic bone is. So it will be the cartilage where the 2 halves of the pelvic bones come together. So you're supposed to bring it down. You're supposed to bring the tape down, not looking at it, kind of use a thumb to place on the tape measure so that you can see what that measurement is in centimetres. And what we've seen is that the measurement in centimetres roughly correlates with the amount of weeks pregnant that you are, which is a lovely little coincidence. But we've only been decimal since the 70s. So obviously that wasn't the case before we went decimal. So before we went decimal, midwives had like poles on the abdomen. So say if you could feel the bulk of the baby in the uterus near the belly button, you'd say, oh, that's around 24, 28 weeks. So I can't remember now, because I started using the tape measure literally from the beginning of my midwifery. But so we were never really taught the poles. But that's how we knew if the baby was growing. So I hope that's clear for everyone. So we used to, because obviously women were giving birth before decimalisation, we don't take it as, firm, oh, you're 33 weeks, so you must measure 33 centimetres. And of course, because every midwife may do it differently, you may get different measurements from each midwife. And if the baby's not completely longitudinal or oblique, so, goes across the abdomen like that, you'll get a different measurement again. So it just takes a measure of common sense and flexibility.
Yeah, to determine the position of the baby and things like that. And it's highly inaccurate, the measurement of fundal heights, especially depending on the experience of a midwife, how much they palpate abdomens. I actually had a client who had a fundal height measurement by a student, and the person who was supervising the student wasn't really paying attention, was doing something else. And the mum said that she went way lower than the pubic symphysis. She was like, "Whoa, hello, that's you're heading into bean territory there. That's well below my pubic symphysis." And the midwife's like, "Oh my gosh, this baby's giant. The baby's so big. We've got to send you for a scan because the baby's too big, and it's a disaster. You can't possibly birth a big baby." And she was like, "No, I don't think that measurement was quite right. That was not my pubic symphysis. that was yeah, we were becoming way more friendly than we were supposed to in that moment." And they were still like, "No, it's too big. Let's send you." You didn't even
Jesus.
check
Yeah,
it.
with
did
mine,
you?
they definitely measured it like from starting and finishing different places, and the final measurement, she measured like the others had kind of been like up towards my boobs, and this one finished like kind of what felt like
Your belly button.
definitely not the top of the uterus, and she said that it was smaller than the previous measurement, and like
Baby
my belly
shrunk.
button had popped out during that week. It clearly wasn't.
Yeah.
And Ben asked her to measure it again, and was just sort of not having any of it, and she said, no, I'm not measuring it again, they'll be the same. So yeah.
Can I just add another little crumb of information in here as well? The reason why continuity of care is safer and we've got less, growth restricted babies, etc., is because it ought to be the same midwife measuring each time. So if she's the same midwife measuring each time and she's got good technique, you will see growth no matter what the number is on the tape measure. You'll see a difference every time she does it. Whilst having different midwives doing different measurements at different times, it's not really giving you information that's reliable.
When it was a different midwife doing it for the second measurement, I did say, like, this is kind of not really ideal, is it, that it's a different person. By the time that the third measurement, where then I'd spoken to Shellie in between to kind of make a plan of action for like what to do and whether to go for another scan and things, kind of questioned, I think politely, the whole policy of these measurements, and the fact that like all interventions after or all further scans after 20 weeks don't show any improved outcomes. So I was concerned to go for another scan because it like sort of feels a bit like at that point there's no good evidence to support doing it. So I didn't really want that scan, and I felt like everything was fine, but the pressure of the system was a bit much, and then you get in your head, and it's quite hard to say no when you've got medical professionals saying, oh, we're worried your baby's too small. So I did then decide to go for the scan, which showed that he was like exactly on his growth curve trajectory, and all the measurements they took were normal. I was breathing deeply to try and make sure my blood pressure stayed under control. And so they kind of said, all right, great, off you go, nothing to worry about here. So I sort of breathed a bit of a sigh of relief and thought, great, now I can just crack on with my life and they'll leave me alone for a while. But then I had calls from the consultant midwives saying, oh, can you come in for a chat? And this is where like having Shellie was fantastic, just to be able to like talk through what was going to be covered in this session and how you might handle it. So yeah, highly recommend for anybody listening. Hiya, Shellie.
Well, there are other doulas available, but yeah, we did have some good chats, didn't we? Because the thing is, it's helpful to say, okay, they're telling me this. What does that mean? They're telling me they're really scared. Actually, what are the real odds? Because often things are presented in a very frightening way, and it's, well, we don't want this to happen to your baby. It's like, okay, yeah, but what are the actual chances of that happening? I need to know that information to be able to make an informed choice. And they're offering me this, but what does that mean? If that shows something in particular, what options is that going to cut off for me? What's going to happen from there? What are they going to tell me, and things like that. So I know we spoke about how sizing scans really are very inaccurate. So if they're telling you the size, actually they don't really know the size. But in reality, we've seen that from the big baby trial, that when they told people their babies were big and they needed to come out, 60% of those babies were not big. They weren't big, and so people had unnecessary intervention that then can cause, what, like we've spoken about in the previous podcast, disruption in physiology that has lifelong complications and implications for you and your baby. So I know we spoke about actually what is helpful to know if a baby is looking smaller, if they're getting below the third centile as a guess of their size. So they may be below the third centile, they may not. But if they're kind of at and close to it, what we want to really look at is, how is the blood flow to that baby? How is that the fluid going to and from the placenta? Is that okay? Is the fluid around the baby at a normal kind of amount? And again, it's a bit of a guess. It's variable. Has the baby weed? Have they moved into a different position? You know, like how we sit in the bath. Sometimes there's a lot of bath water behind us, and then we can move and it all rushes forward. The same thing can happen with a baby in utero. So it's about looking at things over time, and just like with that one single bad blood pressure, like panic. Actually, well, let's just take a look over time, because maybe, the blood flow is a little bit funky because the baby's leaning on the cord at that moment, and next time we look at it and it's fine. So, whatever there is, it's always good to have more information if you want that information. If you're feeling like, okay, I might be leaning down a more medicalized path, I need more information to actually really decide if that is the right way or not. The thing with small for gestational age babies, if we are getting babies below the 3rd centile, there is an increased chance of there being stillbirth. It does increase. It goes from about 1 in 1,000 to around about 3 in 1,000 as we're going beyond 41 weeks of gestation, so as the time goes on. But what really makes things more likely to end up in not a great way is if there are issues with the blood flow. That does increase it further. So I think we spoke about that have they looked at the blood flow, or have they just looked at the size, because that gives you more information to use it to then think, okay, well, is 1 in 1,000, how am I feeling with that? Okay, well, it might be a 3 in 1,000, how am I feeling about that? Okay, well, if we've got some more things going, okay, is it going up to around 6 in 1,000? Do I want to do something about that? And then thinking, okay, what intervention are they offering me? Is there evidence to show that that intervention improves outcomes and means that my baby is more likely to survive? The answer is no. Induction for small for gestational age babies does not reduce the stillbirth risk. It doesn't reduce the neonatal death risk. So it's about what we want to do. If a baby is really compromised, do we want to put them through a procedure that is likely to cause more problems, that is likely to make them distressed, or are they in such a compromised position that we think actually having them out is safer, but a surgical birth is going to be safer for the baby, rather than like pounding them through with medication that's going to potentially distress them further and end up in an emergency cesarean situation. So it's about understanding what all of your options are, and often people are not told those options.
No, they're not.
It's just like, we're going to induce you, we book your induction date in.
Yeah.
Not, okay, well, hold on, what are my options? Can I wait and see? Can we monitor this baby? Can we keep a closer eye? Can we get more information over a number of days, over a number of weeks, and just build up a picture of what's happening, so that we can make the choice that feels right for us?
And NICE guidance has already come to a conclusion that babies that are confirmed growth restriction, as in the Doppler flow, that blood flow, would be best to be born by caesarean. They don't recommend inductions for babies that are growth restricted. Growth restricted used to mean 3rd centile or less, which would trigger Doppler studies to confirm whether they're just, a small baby in the 3rd centile or less. So the Doppler studies plus the growth restriction, we would normally look at 3rd centile or under. Apparently what they're trying to do now is call babies at 10th centile or under growth restricted.
Yeah, he was 10th. And that's like the idea that 1 in 10 people is unsafe, too small, is just doesn't make sense.
You've got the brilliant brain you have. I feel like you should just sit down and speak to other mothers, because the 10th centile, 1 in 10 people needing their pregnancy ending, is obviously ridiculous. So they've moved it to the 10th centile so they can use more interventions that will cascade to more caesareans and blah, blah, blah. Everyone, there's no evidence to support them moving it from the 3rd centile to the 10th centile. Follow the money, please, okay? But if you've got a baby that is looking, their growth curve is looking odd or whatever, please ask them to check the Doppler flow.
Everything that Shellie just explained there about like the choices that you might make if you have a small baby, and like what the options are and the different risk levels, none of that is presented to you. It's all just, this is what we recommend you do. No kind of conversation about the different things that might be happening and the risk levels and your choice as the person growing the baby.
Yeah.
So it's just not presented to you in that way. None of it felt open for discussion. And I did go for that chat with the consultant midwife, and there was talk of like, would you like to speak to an obstetrician about potential induction? And I just knew that didn't feel right, particularly when, you know, he was on the 10th centile, so on the cusp of being called too small, and all the blood flow measurements were normal.
The consultant midwife.
Yeah.
She's getting a shitload
Yeah, and then
of
they
public
started
funds.
telling me about
She's getting a shitload of public funds, and she's shit. You see, this is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
We haven't got. The standard of midwifery these days is in the toilet. That's why I crash out. I'm gonna just try and breathe. It's okay.
Yeah,
she's having a South London rant. She's having a South London rant. Yeah, we kind of what I tried to do with you and Ben is to just make some space for us to have chats. Good. And we hopped on, didn't we? We just, you know, we hopped on a Zoom. You were like, okay, we've got this coming up. Let's have a chat through it so that we can have space to talk about, okay, this is the information, this is what the evidence shows. You know, yes, there is this, you know, really scary possibility here that we need to sit with and think about what feels right, and just to hold that space so that you could think, okay, in this situation, in my individual circumstances, with the results that we've got, this is the path I'm going to take. And then how do I say that to the medical providers? Yeah, because we're so used to doing what we're told that if someone goes, well, you have to do that. This is what we are recommending. Why don't you want to do what we're recommending? Let me tell you some more really scary things so that you do what I'm recommending. You know, that's coercion. Yeah, that's coercing you down a path. That's not okay.
Yeah. They got all the pictures of these graphs out showing babies' heart rates and said that small babies deal less well with the process of labour.
Now, growth-restricted babies may not do so well. They're
not just small.
They're not. Yeah, there's always going to be small babies. Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't tell you that if they induce you, that's going to make that worse. They didn't tell you that, did they? They're like, we're going to induce you, not, okay, when we induce you, that is far more stressful for a baby. That's far more likely to cause heart rate problems in the baby because you're not getting the gaps and spaces, the physiological gaps and spaces between contractions, like we've talked about in episodes 1, 2, 3 on the podcast. It's worth going back to listen to that so that you can understand what we're speaking about. Yeah, sorry, Anna, I interrupted you there. We're getting feisty.
Yeah, so when she got that graph out, I was like, well, you actually, I've done my research here, and you don't know what these heart rate fluctuations actually show. Like, there's just not enough understanding about what a baby's heart rate can normally do during labour. So the fact that this is being kind of waved in front of me as a do what we say rather than like a conversation about let me help you make an informed choice. I was just feeling like by that point less and less happy with the system, and this is where, again, like, I highly recommend everybody gets a doula, because you've got space to talk about this with somebody that you know is on your side and wants a good outcome for you. Not that the medical professionals don't want that, but they're definitely working in a system that just is leading to babies being kicked out earlier than is necessary in a lot of cases, I think. So that was where having you to talk through sensibly what we might do based on the information we had was really helpful, and that was the point where I was starting to think like, I've not really liked quite a lot of my interactions with the midwives I've met now. Haven't really felt respected or listened to, and I have felt belittled and like I'm kind of misbehaving by making my own decisions that are different from the route they wanted me to follow. So that was sort of when I started to think, like, do I call them? Do I want them to be there? Like, why would you invite somebody that you don't feel necessarily safe with? Oh, another thing that happened was when I had the home birth assessment, and I'd met so many different midwives by this point. There was absolutely no continuity. It was just basically a different one every time. But the midwife who did the home birth assessment, they make you tick a load of boxes on a form, and one of them was, I understand the role of a doula, and she basically said, like, the doula's there for kind of emotional support, holding your hand kind of thing, but they're not the the tone of it was very much like they're in the corner in the back seat, not really. You need to know the place of a doula, and it's kind of secondary to us, was the tone. And I really didn't like the way she said it. And there was another box that said, "I feel safe in the company of the medical professionals present," and I ticked it, but I was thinking as I ticked it, like, this is actually a lie. I don't feel safe with these people.
I can't believe they make you tick a box to say that. You don't even know who's going to be there. You don't know who's going to come through the door. It could be anybody.
Exactly. And I thought, well, if it's this woman, like, I definitely don't want her, or the one that did the measurement that I've had a frosty atmosphere in the clinic with. So that was kind of the point where I was thinking, things are not feeling good with this system for me.
It's like this kind of grooming of, we are the authority in the room. Nobody else is the authority in the room. You will trust and listen to what we have to tell you because we know best. And that is so dangerous. You know best. You, as the person birthing a baby, are the one who, me as a doula, I am watching you, I'm listening to you, I'm watching how you move, I'm seeing how you interact, I'm watching how you breathe, I'm thinking about, how are you feeling right now? How can I help you to feel safer? How can I help you to feel more held in a loving way so that your body can relax and do what your physiology is designed to do to keep you safe? And I've been in many situations, in birth situations, where I've noticed things because I'm watching you. I don't have to chart, I don't have to spend my entire time, writing things down so that I don't get, because I'm frightened I'm going to get sued or told off by my boss. You are my entire focus in that space. You and your partner, I'm obviously keeping an eye on them to make sure they're happy and safe as well, just as a unit that I'm looking after you. And I have noticed things, and I've said to midwives before when I've been working with them in the space, should we just check this? I'm like, for example, I've had a mum who's like shaking and saying she's hot, and her waters have been gone for a long period of time, and there's been unnecessary fingering up the vagina. And I'm concerned, okay, has she got a fever? Are we heading into infection, sepsis territory here? And they're like, I'm like, is it a good idea to check the temperature? I'm quite concerned that she's not feeling well. She's looking a bit clammy to me. I'm not medically there as a medical person. It's kind of irrelevant that I have a medical degree anyway. But what I'm saying is that I'm looking at you thinking, this person does not look well. I think we need to do something here. But no, I need to be sitting quiet in the corner, according to the tick box. Yeah.
So that was sort of, for me, the nail in the coffin of any kind of trust in the system. That, and like all of basically a lot of the other mums in my class were kind of starting to have their babies, and I mean, it's just like C-section after C-section after C-section, and I mean, maybe all of them were necessary, but
no,
they're
not. No, 10 to 15% are necessary. Anything above that is not increasing safety but harm.
Yeah, and I think we had a little bit of a chat about it, weren't you? And you were kind of more on board with the idea, but there was a little bit like, I'm not sure. I need to, we need to have a chat through. So we all got together, didn't we, to chat about physiology and how it works, and to help answer questions that you both had about, well, what does it look like? What does birth look like? What's going to happen? What do we need to be concerned about? And brought up each of your individual concerns, which are probably different, about what things might be. And I don't know what you both felt about that conversation, but for me, when I'm talking to people about birth, I'm always trying to say, look, your body is designed to have a baby safely. And you can listen to our previous episodes to hear about all of those wonderful mechanisms that are happening to help things safe, if you haven't heard those, to our listeners. But you just thinking, actually, I don't want to invite people into my space. I might want to birth on my own. I want a free birth. I might call my doula when I feel like I want them there, but I just want my partner there. Okay. But it doesn't mean that at any point, if you feel like, I feel like I do need somebody in my space here, I need to call my doula in, or I actually feel like I need the midwives here for something. Maybe you want some gas and air. Maybe you just want the reassurance of having them, in the other room and being close by. Maybe there's something in your body feeling like I need I need something medical here. You don't have to die on the sword of saying I'm going to birth without people there, and then when something doesn't feel right, that you don't call someone. And I think a lot of people assume that you are stupid if you are choosing not to call medical providers and thinking, okay, that's actually my intention. If anything feels not right, I will call somebody. But I think people think that people aren't thinking that. They think that they're just making a crazy decision. But we kind of talked through that, didn't we? That, okay, what might we see that might think, okay, we might want to call someone, and that we would all be looking out for each other and able to have a conversation if that felt like it was a good plan.
Anna?
Yeah, and that was really important, I think, for getting Ben on board with it, because just like knowing what you might do in different scenarios, and what would it look like if the baby came out and wasn't breathing immediately, and those kinds of questions. It was really helpful to talk all of that through and have definitely make an active choice about it, rather than have unknowns, because obviously when neither of you have given birth, it is probably a bit of a to a lot of people a bold and potentially crazy thing to do, but it definitely wasn't for me from my perspective.
Anna, can I just ask, how many people were in your group?
12.
12. Can you recall roughly how many cesareans there were in that group?
I think 9 or 10.
9 or 10. Let's go for 10. I'm just doing a quick calculation. 10, 12 times. Yeah,
Are you the only one that birthed at home, Anna?
There was one other person who started at home and then ended up with a C-section as well.
Okay, so that's got an 83% chance of cesarean if you're sat in your A class. That's way more than 10 to 15%.
Yeah,
you can guarantee that most of those were unnecessary.
Yeah, it does seem like the system's very happy to just chop women open as though it's no big deal. And I think, you're not allowed to say, actually, I don't want major abdominal surgery unless I absolutely really have to. It's like you're expected to completely martyr yourself for your child, when actually what's best for your child is probably also what's best 100%. For both of you, not just, it's not really like you're two different entities at this point. So
couldn't have said it better.
The system is broken, and I fully think what you guys are doing is great to kind of help get more people questioning.
I agree.
So they can make choices they actually feel good about, because you just do hear so many not great stories these days.
And in the lead up to birth, did you, when you sort of thought, actually, we're just going to call someone if we need them, we put things in place to mean that the home birth team are aware. So, and we sort of had a chat that, I said, well, we can call them at any time, and if you are taking it surge by surge, contraction by contraction, you're coping okay, you don't feel you need somebody else in your space you don't need anything else brought in, that you are coping with what you have in that moment. We kind of put that plan in place. But I was like, and if a baby comes out and everything's fine, a baby comes out, and then if all is okay, then you don't need to call someone to birth your placenta, and actually people coming into the space and disturbing that space is more dangerous if everything is well, and everything as well. So you can call them later. You don't have to call them at all. You can notify your own birth if you want to via an email address, which I'll make sure I put in the show link. But you can also call people, and sometimes it's easier to call them. They can offer checks for you, they can offer checks for the baby that may reassure you, they can do all of the notification process for you and put into place future visits for them to come and check on you and the baby and things like that if you want to. But in that, so you'd kind of made that decision, like, I think that's feeling like it's right for us. You and Ben had a good chat about it, and he was feeling okay about it as well, and you knew that you could call me anytime, or we could hop on a Zoom if you had any questions or any worries or wobbles were coming up. What did you do with regard to the NHS, with regard to midwife appointments and seeing those midwives? How did you feel as you were getting closer to your due date with all of that circus?
So we'd said no thank you, don't want like a scan every week from this point. We've had one more and it all is normal, and we're just going to carry on now. And And then they kept on making scan appointments for me, and then calling me to tell me I'd missed the appointment that I had never asked for or been told about to start with. So that was quite annoying. I don't know whether it was incompetence or some like sinister policy, but let's assume incompetence.
It's sad that that's the better option, isn't it? Incompetence is the best you can hope for. It's a bit, oh gosh. I hear you. Yeah, the whole making appointments, we've booked you an appointment, and sometimes not even telling you they booked you an appointment, and then you're in trouble for missing an appointment they haven't told you about or have booked without your consent. You're like, no, I don't want the appointment. Oh, we can't cancel the appointment. It's like, well, okay, you're wasting your time and money you don't have budget for.
No, they're not wasting their
wanted.
money. They're wasting our money. It is all public funds.
True.
Yeah, it's a waste of money. So then I think I went for one like final kind of normal midwife checkup appointment, which felt pretty pointless by that point. It was just to check the heart rate and all of that stuff, and was offered a sweep and obviously said no thank you, and then I said please don't contact me for another 2 weeks, and actually they were fine with that. They said okay, and then in the end I went into labour at 41 weeks. So thankfully I was sort of really not wanting to get to the stage where I felt like they were going to start to apply more pressure.
Potentially you went into labour at 41 weeks because you'd given yourself that space. Yeah,
who knows? Yeah, and actually Ben blocked the hospital's number because they had been like calling me to ask about these appointments that had never been booked as far as I knew.
Yes,
Ben. And Ben was like, well, we just don't need to hear from them. So
yes, Ben, logic and protective. Wonderful.
It's like the stalkers. You're just being harassed. Like,
honestly,
come to this appointment. I don't want the appointment. I have declined the appointment. Please put in your notes, I don't want any appointments. Why have you not come for the appointment? They were just calling you all the time, weren't they? I just love that. Yeah. He's like, well, let's just block that number. Thanks very much. We'll just carry on.
More radical than me.
Yes, it's his job.
Yeah, we did. We made him more radical than you.
It's his job. I love it. I'm a new Ben fan.
Yeah, Ben's great. We love Ben.
Ben is awesome.
Great birth partner.
Okay, and so you're kind of like, you've shut out the noise of the incessant phone calls. You're just kind of enjoying life at home, and I'd love to hear a little bit about what you felt like, how your labour went. What did you enjoy about it? What did you hate about it? Tell us.
Yeah, sure. So it started. I wasn't like sort of just living my life, kind of trying to carry on doing stuff, but getting to the point like of feeling a bit uncomfortable, and like I'd like the baby out now, and I'd like to, because obviously with all of the stuff that had gone on with the NHS, there was a little bit of a niggling question in my brain of like, am I being crazy? Am I being irresponsible? Am I being a bad mum before I've even had the baby? And I believed I wasn't, but it's hard not to have that doubt.
That seed, which is another reason why subjecting yourself to antenatal grooming, thank God you pushed back the way you did. If you hadn't, for sure, you'd have been loaded onto that conveyor belt and fucked up like so many mothers and babies are. Yeah.
I think so. So I was trying to just relax and live my life as much as possible. And it happened actually, my parents were staying on the Wednesday night, and I kind of said, if I go into labour, you're getting like immediately kicked out. You're not sticking around for it. They were both very on board with that. So lo and behold, I did go into labour that night. And it was probably like slightly. We'd had a really nice day, and then I've been at my sister's house, and we sort of stayed up quite late. We were having dinner quite late, and I was just really like, I need to go to bed. But everybody else was having a nice time, so we sort of, in hindsight, it would have been good to have had a bit more sleep that night. But then I was having a nice time, and who knows, maybe that's what kicks labour off as well. So in the middle of the night, I kind of woke up and was like, I really feel like I need a poo, but this poo there's a lot of pressure. It's just like, I need, but like running to the toilet, and then as soon as I got on the toilet, I would be like, oh, this is too much. I need to get back in bed, and just kind of didn't know where to put myself. But I still was like, I had a plan for lunch the next day, and I was thinking, oh, well, they say that it takes quite a while for first labours, so maybe I could go to lunch through this. And then at maybe about like three in the morning, I was like, oh, there's my lunch is definitely not happening. I'm not going anywhere. It was all hotting up. And then I think at about 7, I woke Ben up. I probably could have like made a bit more noise, but I was trying to be quiet because my parents were asleep downstairs and Ben was asleep, and I was sort of thinking maybe it's good for Ben to actually get a full night's sleep. So I'll try and just do this by myself for a bit. And
then he can serve you better when he's had a good sleep and able to have breakfast and stuff.
Yeah, so I think that was a good call. And then at 7 in the morning, I was like, right, Ben, this is it. This is happening. And I think it took him like a little minute to like really sort of
realize.
Believe me.
You're too calm. You're too calm.
Yeah, and then I think I thought that it would kind of ramp up a bit slower than maybe it did, but in my head I was going to be down here in my living room with nice music on and nice lighting and in a very comfortable environment. But as it was, I was on all fours on my bathroom floor for quite a long time, and there was no way I was going anywhere. I just needed to be on all fours, and I had these birth balls that I was bashing and like focusing on the sound and trying to sort of distract myself from the feeling. And I remember having a moment of being like, oh, okay, this is what contractions are. It didn't feel how I thought it would feel. Mm-hmm. I kind of expected more of like a muscular sensation, but it felt more like the cervix being prized open by a head, which I guess
is what it is.
So I had that moment of like, okay, it's this. This is what's going to carry on happening. Like, cool, get on board with it. You have no option. No.
And you found the sound. You found the sound. You were making sounds, weren't you? And with your spiky balls, that really, the intention of them is to sort of squeeze them and get the acupressure points. But you found actually like tapping the balls, making a sound, like a rhythm, was really helpful for you. And you had some drum music with a rhythm on in the background as well. And it was just, I remember you saying at the time, actually, I wish I'd not had anyone in the house a bit beforehand, because it was feeling a bit overwhelming. But then once you were able to make sound and get into this rhythm, that was really helpful for that head forcing a cervix open sensation. That's another thought I had early on, was like, because I was making a lot of noise in time with my bashing of these balls, and I remember thinking, I'm so tired, like, am I going to have enough voice to do this throughout the whole thing? But my voice just got stronger and stronger as you
I just got goosebumps just then.
She did. She was singing. She was singing through all of her surges. It was really, really amazing.
That's so
really
beautiful.
And it became a bit in time with the music, didn't it? And by the time I got in the pool, so Shellie arrived, and by that point I was like starting to make those grunty sounds and feel the need to push. So came down and got in the pool, and I'd very unhelpfully used up all the hot water in the shower because I'd had the shower on my back. I'd had the TENS machine. I'd been sort of trying different things, but being like, I just need the pool now.
Very good.
Yeah, we sat in the pool, but we didn't have much hot water, did we? And then you guys have got one of those fancy taps that it could make a jug of hot water, and then it was like, I've run out of hot water. And I was like, you don't have a kettle, and I was trying to like, have you got pans? So we had these different various sizes of pans. So I was boiling water to try and warm the pool up, because it was like on the cold level, which isn't very nice. It was like just about warm enough, but not actually really that nice. I felt for you. We were trying as quick as we could to get hot water in to make you comfy.
It was disappointing when I got in and it was lukewarm, but then you filled it up. You and Ben filled it up.
We managed.
When it was hot, it was lovely.
And Ben was doing some bashing for you at one point, I remember, because I think when you got in the pool, you still needed that rhythmic sound, and so he was then doing the rhythmic sound that was really helpful. And actually a lovely doula called Penny Simpkin in America talks about the rhythm and ritual of labour, and how that if you have a rhythm, it's really helpful, because you just fall back into it, and it allows that kind of relaxation. So had this wonderful tribal music with the drums, and then the bashing, and then the kind of you're keeping your
Yeah.
mouth really beautifully relaxed to
Oh,
let the rest of your body relax. I mean, you laboured very quickly for a first, for a first baby. It was intense and, did ramp up very fast.
Yeah.
So I think, a lot of that is to do with you were really relaxing into it and just going with the feeling. It was very amazing to watch.
Yeah, and I definitely felt like very safe with you and Ben here, and I don't think my body would have done what it did if I'd been in a hospital environment. I know
I
it.
know so. I
Yeah, you
really
said
do.
several times afterwards, I can't imagine having to do this in hospital. I cannot imagine how you could stay focused on a car drive. I can't imagine how you could do it in hospital with people coming in and asking you questions, because we didn't ask anything. Ben
No,
and I were there, like, offering water. We were pouring, warm in, and you would just say more warm if you needed more. We're like, it's coming. Sorry, we're trying to get the pans to you to make it nice and warm. But
but it was like we didn't need more than that, really, did we? It was like kind of, it was just, I'll say when something's needed, but there was never one like doubt I'd had beforehand was like, what if it stalls or you things don't progress as quickly as you want, and then you want like maybe a cervical exam or something like that. But I think in reality, because I was so relaxed and just leaning into it, that question just never actually arose. It was always moving forward. So yeah, the question of like, oh, should we call the midwives, and they just really never entered my head, because I was safe in my environment. I had everything I needed, and unfortunately, it was all, it was always moving forward. I was never kind of questioning it. Although I think at one point when I was pushing, I did say, "Is it coming soon, Shellie?" Because it had been like, I mean, I don't know why you would know the answer to that, but having you there ask was good, because it had been probably a few hours by that point.
I think you were feeling the head kind of coming down and going back up, down, and you're like, oh, it's gone back up again. And, I'm just trying to reassure you that's really normal. That's allowing the tissues to stretch, so you're less likely to get tearing. It's really normal for that bob down, back up, bob down, back up. And something I noticed with the sounds that you were making. So, in a hospital, when they're doing coached pushing with someone, so if you'd been in a hospital environment, I absolutely 100% know that they would have been starting to coach you to push.
Really?
Yeah, because from your first kind of instinctual, so when you're listening to the sounds of labour, often people will sort of be going, and then suddenly you'll hear, as that pushing down urge happens. And so for your contractions, sometimes they were even, you'd have one with a little bit of pushing, and then just one where there was no pushing sound. And then some where there was just a tiny bit of a push, and then nothing. Hospital, they'd be like, use all of that contraction, but that's not physiologically what your body was telling you. And actually, when the placenta came out, it made me understand why that pattern was happening in your body, because it's a really teeny weeny little placenta. It's the tiniest placenta I've ever seen. And I was like, oh, no wonder he's wee, because his placenta is also wee. But this is the thing, that physiologically, your physiology was pushing when it was right for your body and not when it wasn't. And so the emergence was actually just very slow, kind of gentle, bobbing down over the baby. And it actually caught us all by surprise, because I remember I thought, oh, it would be really nice to have a picture of you down in the pool with Ben, kind of. So I sort of just momentarily gone up the stairs to just take a little picture. And then as I came back down, and you were like, oh, he's out. He just sort of, it was like nearly there. Oh, there we go. The whole of him's here just suddenly. So I didn't actually manage to capture him coming out. I missed it. I just got him in the water.
You got very cool videos and pictures there. But yeah, that feeling of like him going in and out, like it's not very pleasant, but I definitely like just knew that it was all going at the pace it had to for me not to tear. Like it was a slow and deliberate, like slow kind of on purpose.
Oh, but also for the hypoxic event of childbirth, the cadence of the surges at that point is going to shift again, just to allow your baby to remain optimally oxygenated. So sometimes the gaps increase and the length of the surge shortens, and it's for the baby. So this is why when someone's coaching you to push, you're actually causing harm.
It would be like being told to have a poo when you don't need a poo. It doesn't. I don't think I could have. It was all, and even like the kind of instinct to pant was like, that felt quite instinctive as well, like the push, and then there was like a counter urge to tame the push.
Excellent.
It, yeah.
Excellent.
And listen to this. Nobody told Anna how to push. Nobody said to her anything.
I don't know how that baby was born then. I don't know how that baby was born then. You know, I watched, it was on our beautiful Floor Cruise, her badass, it wasn't the Badass Mother Bertha account. I love that woman. So she stitched a film of a woman who was, the baby was basically giving, the baby were working towards the birth, but the idiots in the room, the professionals, couldn't cope with a baby coming out of a vagina. They were obviously stressed out, right? So you could see her trying to keep her knees together to slow the pace of the baby being born, and they kept opening her legs and trying to get her into stirrups. So her and her baby were working together for the birth. The people in the room who are getting handsomely paid and called birth professionals were working against what she was trying to achieve for her and her baby. So I don't doubt that she would have had a massive tear and whatever else, but they think they're helping. So that's another reason why I adore the decisions you were enabled to make by the support that you had, because you were probably not only protecting your tissues, but also protecting the baby from this fast birth that may have not been right for your little boy, you know?
Yeah. No, it felt like, that nature just does know what it's doing, doesn't it? Like the big pauses that you have in between, like there for a reason, to like let you conserve a bit of energy for the next one.
And to let your baby have enough oxygen for their brain during this process.
Yeah. I'm sure the baby's resting as well in those pauses. So yeah. And then eventually he popped out all in one go after quite a lot of feeling like he was coming in and out, and the sac had been kind of coming out for ages, and the feeling of, I felt like he kind of launched me forward, and I don't really know how I caught him, but I did.
Nobody else put their hands on her baby. Did you hear that? Mothers can catch their own babies. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, I love it.
Just like, okay, I'm just going to slowly lift him up and see him. And he had a bit of membrane over his face, and just lifted it off without without anybody getting in the way or doing any vigorous rubbing or any of that nonsense.
Yeah, and he was like very alert, wasn't he? And like just had his eyes open and having a look around, and he was
because he wasn't drugged.
Yeah.
You did that.
It was amazing. I mean, it is painful as well. I do remember thinking to myself, like, this is amazing that a body can do this to itself. It's seriously painful. Yeah. But you can push through it, and then the high you get afterwards, I think it makes it worth it.
The rite of passage. Good stuff. How long were you giddy for after having this amazing birth?
Weeks.
Yes, this is what I thought you'd say. Weeks.
She still is now, Kemi. She still is now.
It's so worth it. Women do hard things. Women are capable of hard things. Women are capable of painful things.
Yeah, and it's very disempowering to have, like, for so many women now to be just told that they don't get the opportunity to, like, know what their body's capable of.
Do you think that's accidental, Anna?
I don't fully know what I think about whether it's accidental or not. I think it's snowballed, hasn't it, into I think there's probably lots of medical professionals who really do want the best for people and assume that they are following the latest, their practices are in line with the latest research and think that they're doing the best for people. But I also think there must be a lot who are questioning whether the policies need updating and a bit more respect needs to be given to the women, and a bit more freedom for them to make choices for themselves. Because the system, whether it's intentional or not, is definitely broken. And yeah, something needs to change. And I guess it probably has to start with the women who are having babies to start asking for the change, and start, and things like your podcast are helping to inform people about what they can, what their options are. But it's really hard because, we have all been trained, like Shellie said, to kind of put our faith in these systems and believe that they are serving our best interests. So it's kind of it's challenging when you start to feel like that's not the case. And and obviously with birth, like the stakes are so high. It's a baby, and you're not the only person involved in the making of the baby. So it's a difficult thing to push back on, because
of course,
it's obviously the most important thing.
Yeah, and it's very confronting, isn't it? It's very confronting when you think, when you're like, actually, that doesn't feel right for me. And then somebody puts more pressure on, and it's like, well, you don't want to hurt your baby. What do you should do what you're told. I know better than you. Why are you even questioning me? And then you start to recognize that you're sitting in this uncomfortable place where you're like, well, I have actually done my research. I am actually doing what is best for my baby.
Yeah, I know more than you.
Yeah, and I feel like I know more than you. You're telling me you know more than me, but actually I've read this paper. I've spoken with my doula, and she sent me all of these links that I've read, and I understand now. And I'm coming at it from a place of more knowledge than you, and you're the professional that's being paid to give me professional advice, and I don't feel I'm getting it. And it's quite a scary place to sit. And I know that a lot of people who choose to birth in the way that feels right for them, they're untethering their birth from the system. You start then to question other systems. You start then to question other things that you are told and you have always been told is right. And it is very confronting. It's actually quite a scary place to sit, because the things that you thought made you comfortable, you start to think, do they actually make me comfortable? Are they actually in my best interest? Are they actually, you question one, you start to question all the others, and it can be a bit scary. And I've spoken to a lot of people who have said, actually, it's a bit much for me. I chose to birth in a free and untethered way. And then I started to question other things. I started to question vaccination schedules. I started to question the school system. I started to question how the government's working and what these policies they're introducing. And it feels actually quite overwhelming, and it starts to create ripples that are uncomfortable for the industries that are set up and make money from us all. And so we're disrupting the system by choosing to birth the way that we want to birth, but actually it's helping the whole health of us and our families, and it's so valuable. I mean, I think you're a complete badass, and I love you guys. I think you are amazing, and I was so honoured to be there with you both. It all just worked out well, didn't it? Because I was just actually going to be doing remote support for Anna and Ben, Kemi, and I was just at the end of the phone, and that we would call each other because I was on call for someone else. But then one of my other clients had their baby, and I was like, Did your client have the baby? Does that mean that you might be able to come and be with us? And I was like, yes, it does.
So glad you were available. So glad you were available. And a lot of the moves that the established maternity services are making are trying to drive a wedge between people like you, Anna, and Shellie. So, you've got you doulas that don't act as advocates, that basically aren't very helpful in the system we currently have, because you need to really.
Well, they do what the tick box that Anna had to tick said.
Exactly.
The doula sits quietly in the corner and just
quietly in the corner, mopping her brow from time to time. But when you, Anna, chose to have the support of Shellie, again, that was an amazing decision that you made, Anna. You knew what you needed. You probably wouldn't have been able to describe it, but it's not until you started to receive it from Shellie, you went, oh yeah, that's going to keep me safer than blind trust in the professionals. So I just want to affirm your ability to choose. You make such good choices. It was your first baby. and you made excellent choices and you got excellent support from your Ben. I just needed to affirm that.
I was going to echo that actually I don't, as a doula, really, I think, do a huge amount. I just say, okay, here's some more information because I'm a nerd and I read this information all the time. And so I can help you to find it. Here's some information. Take some time to look through it. Do you want to have a call and we'll chat about it? Tell me what's coming up for you. If there's anything else that you need more information on, I'll try to find it. And we'll just sit and work through, okay, well, what about if you do this? What does that look like? What does that mean? How does that feel for you? How are you both feeling about that? Let's talk all together to help everyone come to the same point, so everybody's looking after you in the right way. I said to you, you don't need me. You don't need me. I can come and be there and help you guys out, but actually you're going to be doing everything and I'm just there as like the backup support. I'm glad, because sometimes women think of things that men don't think of. When we were like, oh no, there's no hot water, what are we going to do? I was like, have you got any pans? Have you got a kettle? Have you got any pans? Oh yeah, pans. Then we can get the warm water to help you be comfortable. So an extra pair of hands sometimes is helpful, but it's a respectful pair of hands. So I said to you, didn't I, that look, you can call me if you feel like you want me nearby, but my ego is not there. I'm in the car if you want me sat outside. If you want me to come in, I'll come in. I'll do everything you need to do, and then I'm not intruding. I'm there to help you feel safe and loved, and when you feel everything settled, I will just disappear off again and just leave you to it. Not like I'm going to be in your space. Anyone else in your space needs to sit in the corner and shut up and do what I say. Because the only person that should be doing that in the space, if they want to, is you.
It was all on my terms, wasn't it? Which is like the way it should be. But no, it's you definitely played a big role, Shellie. Don't because having that like informed, helpful, reassuring sounding board, like I definitely wouldn't have been able to kind of withstand the pressures of the NHS if I hadn't had you to talk stuff through with. And also have it for Ben, having somebody else there at the birth is like, I think the unknown would be kind of too great to not have some support from somebody who's seen it all before.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's really helpful for, I sort of say this to people, that actually in pregnancy, I think as a first-time mother, you often feel like you need more support, and it's really helpful to have a doula. In birth sometimes, if you're really in the zone, sometimes little things are just really wonderful, like a cool flannel or a sip of drink or heating up the pool water, like practical things are helpful. But actually, if you're in the zone, you often don't need much support. But for a partner, often having that extra pair of hands is helpful to, when you start making noises that are a little bit different, it can be a bit unnerving. What was that? And that I think of that because of my own birth, where my husband was really nervous about birth because he's got 2 grown-up children and they were very sort of catastrophically stressful, really difficult births, and so he hadn't seen a proper physiological birth, and they both cascaded to emergency crash cesareans, and so he was very terrified of birth and difficult to engage in learning and understanding. So when I started going from kind of to sounding like a cow, he was like, he didn't have that person to look at who would just go, I was like, this is good, everything's fine, or just a calm like nod or whatever it is in the in the background to say, yeah, that's okay, we're good, and keeping that calm. And if he'd had that, he wouldn't have been so panicked. So it's because I think often partners are worried about having a doula. They think, oh well, I want to be there, I don't want anyone in the space getting in the way. And so that's something that's really important for me as a doula to say, is like, I'm not there to get in the way of your partnership. Actually, I'm there to just help it so you can be more together, so that you don't have to think of all the practical things necessarily. Or if there's a point where you're feeling, oh, this is quite intense, I want to be thinking about practical things, and I do want to go and get a cool pack rather than being like the one bashing the balls or the one, whatever it is that you need, so that you've got that ability to have someone to switch out with, which can be helpful. But someone that would also, if you say, okay, we don't need you anymore, they'll go, okay, love you guys, see ya. Call me if you need me.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you so much for telling us all of that. Is there anything that you feel that you haven't already told us about during your pregnancy that was really helpful, or during your birth, or even afterwards, that you sort of found really useful that you'd like people to know about?
I would just encourage people to listen to your podcast, and I think listening to people's stories is useful. I did a lot of that. The book Childbirth as a Rite of Passage was really helpful. Your videos, Shellie, about the physiology of it, and I think those were the main things that I found useful. I read a book called Birth Skills, which is where the idea for the bashing balls came from, which kind of distraction techniques, which I think is quite useful. No, I think we've kind of covered everything that I wanted to talk about. I feel like we'll get off the call and then I'll think of 10 other things, but
that's okay. We can always add them in the extra bits for the people that come on the Patreon, because it can you can sometimes think of helpful
the number one thing.
Yeah, and I think you guys made the decision after the placenta had come. The placenta was at least an hour and a half after she'd had a baby. Everything was fine. No active bleeding. No. You just needed to stand up, really, didn't you, and go for a wee, and then the placenta came out and it was absolutely fine. So we were just keeping an eye to make sure everything was okay and that you felt comfortable, and there was nothing. And then you snuggled up and had a little attempt at a feed and things like that. And then you guys decided to call the midwives, and they actually initially were like, yeah, well, we'll come out tomorrow. And we were like, okay, great, we can tuck you up in bed and you can snuggle up. And then suddenly, a little while later, about an hour later or something, we had a bang, bang, bang on the door. This very loud midwife, hello! And I was like, hi. I don't know why I'm shouting. And I was like, neither do I. I said, they're snuggled up quietly on the sofa around the corner, all cuddled up. Do you want to come in? Like mirroring quietness. To come round
and they were a bit that is another point of annoyance with the system. They were quite like, they sort of said, oh, well done you, but with a tone of you've misbehaved. I think. And when I didn't want like a vaginal exam to check for tears and stuff, that was met with a bit of a like, oh, like, how dare you not submit to that?
Yeah, and they actually said to me, well, you've checked her, haven't you? And I was like, no.
Yeah,
not in my remit, not in my scope of practice. And I actually had to say to her, if she doesn't want to have any fingers in her vagina, she doesn't have to have that. If she wants to check herself, she can do that. But equally, if she doesn't and she feels like, I don't need anything right now, that's okay. She can decline.
I think that's a test question. You'd have been bundled into the back of a police car if you'd said you'd done that, because they can't wait.
And they asked about meconium as well, and I just like glanced at Shellie. They said no, even though there had been a bit of meconium.
There's been a poo. We've had a couple of poos since birth, maybe just slightly before birth.
But Shellie would understand what's meconium, what meconium you need to be concerned about, whilst they're trained to have a fit over any meconium, even though 999 times out of 1,000 it's not an issue. So I think you were wise. You weren't there. We're fine.
Yeah. And by the time you pushed a baby out, you do feel like, oh, I really can. I can stand up for myself.
Yes, well done.
Yes, you get that power. Done. I mean, that's the thing that they don't want us to have, really, isn't it?
No.
I can do anything. I can question anything. It's wonderful. That's the wonderful physiology. And they were like, oh, he's too small. You need to go to the hospital and have him monitored. And it's like, well, he's fine. He's feeding. He's snuggled up skin to skin.
Yeah.
His breathing's fine. His pulse is fine. His temperature's fine. There's nothing. Why do we need to go there and disrupt that physiology? Having birthed at home and being snuggled up on the sofa, we're heading off. We're having something to eat, something delicious to eat, and we're going to bed. We're not going in the hospital. And that's when the midwife was like, like a chicken. She started making this funny noise, and Anna's like, no, we're not going to the hospital, thank you. We're staying at home. Very politely, just like, no, I don't think we need that. We're perfectly fine here. We sort of know what to keep an eye out for.
Yeah.
And they were like, have you got a thermometer? But your observation's not going to be the same as at a hospital. And I sort of said, well, I think it'd probably be more that they're looking at their baby.
Just
no
one
one at the
baby.
hospitals.
For two
Yeah,
of them
no one
to
else at the
focus
hospital is
on.
going to be watching their baby like they are watching their baby. You know, I think
100%.
we're okay.
100%.
Yeah. Yes, it was just a final little annoying thing from the system, just to round out the whole experience.
Yeah, it was good. Actually, they didn't stay too long, did they? They sort of,
No,
they
it was
realised that
fine.
you were very much like firm in your, no, thank you, I'm declining that. And that's something I sort of really advise to people, to put firm boundaries in place at the get-go, and so then people know not to mess with you. You say, no, I'll be declining that. Please document that in my notes. I don't need to discuss it any further. And you just end the conversation. And if there's, well, this is the guidelines, this is the recommendation, you're like, I understand, I have declined, please document that, thank you very much. No is a full sentence. You don't need to justify your decision. You don't need to prove that you've got a thermometer in your bathroom cupboard, that you've got a hat that has, that they want to put on your baby that you don't want to put on your baby. Just, no, I've declined, thank you, please document that.
Yeah. And your catchphrase, Shellie, of your instincts being your superpower, I think that's great, and everybody should have that in mind when they're pregnant.
Yes, maternal instincts are a superpower. If I'm at a birth and I'm thinking everything's okay, if a mama says to me something's not right, I'm like, okay,
listen,
what do we need? What is going to help you feel safe? Let's go for it. Because it really is a superpower. I would trust your intuition over anything else.
Way over anything else.
Anna, thank you so much for coming to talk with us today and tell everyone about your story and how you achieved your physiological birth, like the birthing goddess you are. Thank you so much, and a really big love.
Yeah, thank you for having
And
me.
it's a
really
wonderful gift.
Enjoyed retelling
it's
it.
a wonderful gift you've given your son. All the courage
thanks.
and the choices. Well done.
Yeah, and all of our listeners too, because now they're going to hear your story and hear about what helped you achieve something that not very many people, unfortunately, are managing. So we want more people to be like Anna and Ben and little Max and have the birth that they deserve in their power with their superpowers.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, hopefully it can inspire somebody else to ask a few more questions and say no if something's feeling really wrong for them.
100%.
I really hope.
And thank you for doing the podcast, because the more information there is out there, the better for everybody.
We agree.
Thank you so much, everybody. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
You can sign up to the Birth Untethered mailing list from the link in the show notes, become an Untethered Rebel, support the show, and join the growing community that meet together online each month to share collective wisdom, support one another, and also to receive extra resources that supplement podcast episodes. The information shared in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be construed as medical advice. The views and opinions expressed by guests are their own and may not reflect those of the hosts. This content does not replace professional medical guidance.